days, it's off-season all the year round in Portrush, Ulster's famous playground by the sea. Willie Lake takes the second Coleraine Old Boys Silver Band through a piece from Mary Poppins. In 50 years playing on the front, he's never known things so bad. Although the economy has survived the troubles and business life goes on, the magic of Northern Ireland as a major tourist draw has gone. And in Portrush this year, few people will see what the butler saw.
Well, the troubles have meant for me virtually a complete destruction of a business which took 50 years to build up. At the moment, with my losses of £120,000, this is not something that I have lost. It's money that I never had, which I now owe. And the only way to repay this, of course, is to break down something that you have built up or sell off a portion of it in order to pay off your debts.
Jack Fawcett's father, Sam, was packing them in here back in 1923, before the package tour had been invented. His pioneering efforts have added up to this: 400 empty rooms. His plan to smarten up the Strand Hotel has long ago been shelved.
1968 was one of the peak years as far as we were concerned. In fact, it was the beginning of further development in my business. And during that summer, we had approximately 5,000 cross-channel visitors stopping for a complete week on a package holiday. Compared with the situation in 1973, where we had 5 people from cross-channel, it shows that the situation has become absolutely disastrous.
Northern Ireland's a splendid place for golf.
But meanwhile, 60 miles away in Belfast, a bright new spirit enjoys the thankless task of making Ulster tourism work. Dynamic Robert Hall, ex-oil troubleshooter, is the chief executive of the Northern Ireland Tourist Board, waiting for the day the tourists will all come back. In July 1969, he saw this advert in the Daily Telegraph.
What were you doing when you first saw the advert for the job in the press?
I was on board a 37-foot motor fishing vessel about 500 yards off the North Goodwin Sands.
What did you think when you saw it?
I was actually thinking that I really wasn't catching enough fish to feed my cat. I would have to earn some more money somehow. I saw this advertisement for Chief Executive for Northern Ireland. I thought, well, that seems a pretty impossible sort of a job. Let's have a go.
What had you actually done up until then, before that?
I'd been about 22 years in the oil business, living in aircraft and living in various parts of the world. I hadn't seen very much of my family, and frankly, by about early 1969, I was beginning to run out of steam. I was bored to tears. I was earning quite a lot of money, but the sort of object had gone out of life, and as I say, off I went down to the channel, bought a fishing boat and went fishing. But as I said, it didn't pay.
Down in the country over lunch, the chief executive woos a group of hoteliers and cruiser operators. His jovial approach belies the importance of his task. He must attract investment in new Grade A hotels. Even before they were bombed, hotels in Ulster were woefully inadequate by modern standards.
Well, I think any form of investment incurs some sort of risk. The smaller the risk, the smaller the return. You can put your money in a bank or a building society and you'll get 7 or 8% after tax. Because it's very safe, it's very secure, but you're never going to get very rich. You're probably not even going to keep pace with inflation. But there is a higher risk, of course, in Northern Ireland, which everybody knows about. But I would suggest there are also higher returns. Why? Because for a potential investor, he will evaluate, of course, the risk himself. But in evaluating it, I would suggest he takes account of the fact that we have up to 40% grants for hotels, for hotel bedrooms, which is a pretty high rate of grants. Property prices are at their lowest, for obvious reasons, and the growth prospects are enormous.
At the Tourist Board's headquarters in Belfast city centre, the chief executive spearheads a professional operation. He has an impressive staff of 60. Like them, he's ever optimistic. How would you describe Belfast today to someone who had never been here?
Well, I think it's an interesting place if you want some excitement, but quite frankly, one cannot, in all honesty, say that it's a very attractive place, for obvious reasons. Look at all the jeeps and the army sculling around the place. Look at all the bomb damage. There's a great deal of damage and destruction around, and it's not really, I'm afraid to say, a great tourist centre at the moment.
If someone, again, who hadn't been here before, asked you, is it safe to come to Northern Ireland, what would you say?
Well, one says really that this is a matter of personal decision. People must make their own minds up. We cannot guarantee the safety of anybody, any more than the Israeli Tourist Board can guarantee you won't tread on a landmine, or the Italian Tourist Board can't guarantee you won't catch cholera or enteritis, or the United States Tourist Board can't guarantee you won't get murdered or mugged in New York. I read last week that there are 9 murders a day and 1,000 muggings a day in New York. Well, I reckon we're better than that.
So you're better off in Belfast than New York, are you?
Oh, I would say so. You're less likely to be mugged.
Northern Ireland Tourist Board?
Right in the front line, Betty Michie, one of the chief executive's most devoted disciples,
certainly.
handles anxious telephone inquiries at the Tourist Board's Glasgow office.
Getting shot at? Oh, I don't think you would get shot at. We haven't lost a passenger yet. Yes. People wanting to go on holiday and yet possibly thinking that Northern Ireland is so dangerous. You've got to sort of woo them, shall we say, into travelling to Northern Ireland for a holiday.
What sort of things do people ask when they come in to see you?
Well, the main question is usually, can you guarantee my safety?
What do you say to that?
Well, who can guarantee one's safety crossing Sauchiehall Street?
In the second week in May, 1968, 16 operators ran package tours to Ulster. This May, there's only one. In the second week in May, 1968, 1,500 people came on package tours. By the second week in May this year, that number had dropped to 17, mainly old-age pensioners from Glasgow. Early one Saturday morning, they waited patiently to board the coach for a Princess all-in holiday to Portrush. But then, only 5 minutes before departure time, events took a dramatic and unexpected turn.
I'm from the bus company. I come to have a word with you about the tour. First of all, I'm sure you've seen in the newspapers and the television that there's been a distinct worsening of the situation in Ireland, both in the north and in the south, over the past 24 hours. With all these factors taken into consideration, we regret to advise you that we must not operate the tour. It's going to be cancelled. This is unfortunate, and it's with the greatest reluctance that we've taken this decision. But in the best interest of the passengers, and the passenger safety to us is paramount. It comes before anything else. I'm sorry, we must cancel the tour.
Very disappointed.
Are you?
Yes. I was looking forward to it very much.
Well, those rates can't be held.
But I mean, they're not stupid about it.
Do you think they've taken the right decision?
Oh, absolutely.
Sure
they have. Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
They're studying the care of
The people.
these people.
Yes.
So it's very kind.
Weren't you all a little apprehensive anyway?
We even spoke about it coming in last night. I said we're not there yet. So it doesn't come as a surprise.
Have you ever known anything like this happen before?
Never, never. And I think we're one of the oldest touring operating companies in Scotland. And I don't recall ever having to cancel a tour because of the danger to passengers.
I hope it will be not a dangerous holiday, no? Not dangerous?
Yeah, there's no danger except from a pike or something.
Is it not dangerous to live here?
No.
Huh?
If British tourists have, for the time being, been forced to give Ulster up as lost, not so the Continentals. And Northern Ireland still holds some strange attraction for a last remaining handful of Swiss and Germans.
Some of the best whiskey you know here from Northern Ireland. Black Bush.
Allemaal aan boord. Noordoost, up.
Go van it.
All right. Up. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
A lawyer from Cologne and party have booked up for a self-catering week, cruising on Lough Erne down in County Fermanagh. They have the added bonus that they have it to themselves.
We have some friends who are playing cards every week in Germany. And we wanted to go everywhere to have some holidays for playing cards. And at first we thought of going to the Rhine or going to another river, Moselle. And then the idea was born to go to Northern Ireland. One of our friends has been here last year. At first we were very surprised.
A bit mad, the idea.
Because it is very far, it's very expensive and perhaps a little bit dangerous.
How dangerous did you think it might be?
Oh, there were news in the radio every day, nearly every day, that there has exploded a bomb in Northern Ireland. And therefore we thought could be a little bit dangerous.
How did it strike you when you first of all arrived in Belfast? What did you think of that?
Belfast is not a good town, I think. It was very early in the morning we arrived with the ferry, and we wanted to pass Belfast very, very quickly.
Because we thought at 7 o'clock the terrorists have to sleep.
At any time did you, when you were going through Belfast, did you think you had made a mistake that you wanted to go back?
Oh, no,
not
never,
at all,
never,
not at all.
No.
But there are troubles here. Why did you decide to come?
We decided to come because we looked for a place where not so many tourists.
And why do you think there aren't so many tourists?
I think most people are a bit afraid of the terrorists.
Hello! A lovely day!
Like the Germans and the Swiss, the chief executive likes Fermanagh too.
But you've got the sun!
Lough Erne, 55 square miles of unspoilt beauty, provides him with his biggest tourist asset.
Use the phrase "get away from it all." It's a sort of hackneyed phrase, but by golly, this is the reality when you come down to Fermanagh here. You really get away from it all. It just wipes all the cares and the worries away. Look at the birds, the fish. Well, you now and again you see another boat, you know. Sometimes you see a cow, perhaps. Everyone says, "Look, a cow, marvelous." And what if they then said, "Well, that all sounds very nice, sounds super, but what about the troubles?" Well, what would you say then? I'd say, well, where are the troubles? You show me where there are troubles. No troubles around here? There are troubles in Northern Ireland. Of course there are troubles in Northern Ireland. Well, you can't go against the power of the television screen. Of course there are troubles, but I don't see any troubles around it. I'm sure nobody else does on these lakes. Perfect peace.
Like a true professional, the sales pitch is impressive, with a well-worn line of chat.
Always good stories about fishing in Ireland.
Like what?
And they're true stories.
Let's have some.
No, I'm busy. I'm going to land this big one. No, he wasn't there. What appeals to you about being out here?
I think the quiet, really. It gives you a chance to hear just everything that's going on. There's a skylark up there. I can hear him. I can't see him, but he's there. I heard a curlew just now, which gives its little burbling sounds.
You know, the average outsider would regard the job your husband has as as a pretty daunting task.
Oh, I think it, yes, it could be regarded in that way. I think it needs perhaps a certain bright spirit to see beyond the difficulties and see the joys that there are around and about.
And you think that's what he has?
Oh, I think so, yes. He certainly has, yes.
You think you've got something there?
No. We live in hopes.
Why don't we cut back to the rain on the fuchsia at a slightly lighter stage? You know when he's getting the little golden fuchsia out of the pot and he's scrubbing it away with the water?
The board has had to play down selling Northern Ireland as it is. The budget today is largely spent on what they hope it will be. And in a studio up a flight of stairs in London, a £20,000 promotional film is being prepared for release the day the Troubles end.
I went round Northern Ireland with an completely open mind, looking at things. And really, the more I thought about the place, the more I realised that what we had here to put over were eternal things, was life and nature and the surroundings, the things that were really truly Irish. And to me, these were things that you saw and you heard. They weren't things you wanted to talk about, the things you want to experience. So the film I made, in a way, is a kind of substitute for actually being there. I've tried to make a film that you feel, when you've seen it, as though you've been there.
Isn't it a slightly odd title, given that Northern Ireland has such enormous problems at the present time?
Yes, but the film isn't about the present time, is it? It's about Ireland, and Ireland is a quiet land. You take away all the bombs and the soldiers and you leave the people going and get on with living their lives, and it is a quiet land.
There's great charm about the people and the way of life in Northern Ireland.
There's certainly a lot more life.
Even the big London advertising agencies have reluctantly decided to call it a day. For the firm which handles Volkswagen, nursing recruitment, Heinz tomato ketchup, and the Northern Ireland Tourist Board, even the slickest creative copywriting at present would almost certainly appear incongruous.
But who, in fact, are you aiming it at?
Well, we're aiming very much at the motoring public, people with cars who'll go over there and travel round, because one of the great things about Northern Ireland is the empty roads. We can't do a campaign now which we know is going to be the right campaign. I mean, it is possible that this will be the right campaign, but we've simply got to wait now until the time is ready that we can advertise again, and we've just got to take stock of the situation again.
What is the board's current policy on advertising and marketing Northern Ireland overseas?
Well, we don't have a real marketing operation at the moment. We don't believe we have a saleable product in present circumstances which would justify an all-out marketing plan. We're keeping the wheels oiled. We've a good marketing organisation. We're building it up and keeping it ready. We've plans ready to go as soon as the situation warrants it.
So, given that tourism as such barely exists in the province now, how do you justify the very existence of a tourist board?
I think that's a very good question. You might say, well, why not pack it up? But it's very easy. All my experience throughout life, when business runs down a bit and you say, well, pack it up, it's very easy to pack things up. It's very, very difficult to start them up again.
How can you be so sure that if and when the Troubles do end, that Northern Ireland will be the kind of place that tourists would want to come to?
Well, it's a beautiful country. We've got marvellous assets. We've mountains, sea, coastline. We've got lovely rivers and lakes. And I think very friendly, nice people. And we can offer quite a lot of things that aren't available in too many other places.
Lord O'Neill, a member of the Tourist Board, has always had a love for trains. And as a living symbol of the optimism of the board, he's in the tourist trade himself, in a smallish way.
What sort of pleasure do you get actually being on the footplate yourself and dressing up in the overalls and the hats and all that kind of thing?
Well, the overalls and the hat are purely functional. One must wear them or you'll get absolutely filthy. But I get enormous pleasure out of just coaling it, oiling it, and the general atmosphere, the smell, etc. I'm very happy to stand in when the regular driver can't operate, and on days when we're very busy, I drive anyway.
Last year, 30,000 Irishmen paid their 38 pence for a quick ride round Lord O'Neill's 1,800-acre estate, home since circa 1600. The other 30,000 foreign tourists he expected didn't make it.
How would you justify the existence of the tourist board, given the present situation?
Well, as I've afraid said before, we all hope, and we must hope, that in time the place will settle down. And although this could be still some years away, I think we must be ready to take advantage of the situation. And there's a strong feeling that when peace does come, there will be an urge to come here and look at this extraordinary place and see what the people are like and why they've been doing what they have. And we feel that there may be quite a stimulus resulting from the past trouble.
If I were an Englishman, a Scotsman, with a wife and a couple of kids, I certainly wouldn't bring them over here. Although we, in this area, have had no trouble whatsoever. But how can they consider, how can a man consider to take what are nearest and dearest to him into a country where it's quite likely that he could be involved in an explosion or could be shot at, what have you? I think it's not irrational. If I were in his position, I'd stay away too.
You really think that their lives could be in danger by coming here?
I think so, yes.
So even in the interests of your own business, you would never be tempted to launch any kind of reassurance campaign to persuade people to come?
No, I wouldn't persuade anyone to come in the north of Ireland on a holiday under the circumstances as they are at the moment.
Even although that's your business?
Even although that's my business.